goodness.
It
Hi,
worked.
Erin. Yes. Erin
Hey,
Snow, our
MA.
clinical director for our residential treatment program and overseeing like all aspects of our seeking integrity things, is here with me tonight. So she and Dr. Rob alternate on Monday nights for the Q&A, but Erin also does consultations. Hers are 90 minutes with couples, but Dr. Rob's are 2 hours or whatever via Zoom. He probably has a hard time holding it to the 2 hours, but that's Dr. Rob. So anyway, but keep that in
Oh,
mind if you guys are stuck or have don't know what to do. You're new on this path. We have resources, such as Erin and Dr. Rob, or support sessions, or these webinars, or drop-in groups. So online work groups. We've got just a multitude of resources. But what I think we excel at is helping men heal from sex addiction, porn addiction, intimacy disorders, or co-occurring, issues. Sometimes it's chemicals, sometimes it's gaming or gambling. It doesn't matter. We need to look at all of those aspects. So
we call
we don't
it
have any questions
whack-a-mole.
yet. So yes, call, please. I was gonna say, share a bit about that. So
Well, oftentimes we get a lot of calls for people that have been to treatment for one thing or another. And they aren't able to stay sober because they didn't really address kind of the full gamut. So they put one addiction down and kind of pick up a different one, right? Like I was really into, I quit alcohol and now I noticed my porn use has gone way up. And then I got rid of porn and I noticed now I'm video gaming. And so not looking at comprehensively what is running this, like the addiction cycle can include a bunch of different things, right? But what is it that is triggering this? And what is it that I need to do in order to address it comprehensively versus in little pieces? Because some people say it's the chicken or the egg. Is it because I drink, then I watch porn, or is it because I'm interested in porn that I want to include alcohol? I mean, it can be a number of different things, but you have to address the issue comprehensively, looking at all of the parts. Otherwise, it's just a new thing will pop up because I'm avoiding sitting in my own skin and actually dealing with what it is I'm running from or running to.
So on that note, because I'm when people call, I am the person that answers the phone. So I get lots of calls, and we have a question, but I want to ask you this before we get to that. So I get lots of calls that are people that are, whether often it's a betrayed partner, but it could be the person struggling with the compulsive behaviors, and they're like, I was, and you name it, sexually abused, traumatized, whatever. There bad things happened, when they were a child, and so they're immediately wanting to go to trauma work. They haven't got a handle on the compulsive behaviors. So I share about our program, but can you, from a clinical standpoint, address a bit of all of that and how we unpack it?
Yeah. So trauma work is super important. I fully and firmly believe that trauma is typically at the root of most and all addiction. The problem is the kind of the sequence of events, right? So what we have found is some people dive directly into trauma work. They don't yet have the resources and the skills, and it ends up escalating their behaviors because hello, you have those coping skills, those maladaptive defenses for a reason. And if you are not in a place where you have some recovery and some skills and some resources, then you're ending up using the maladaptive things that got you here in the first place. Um, so we want to stop the bleeding first. I always say, like, let's stop acting out first. Let's stop the behavior first and get you to a place where you are safe and you are able to tolerate some level of discomfort because you have tools in your tool belt. Then moving to that place of trauma work. Obviously, in inpatient treatment, it's a little bit easier because you're in a contained environment. Like we don't have beer in the fridge and we don't have, open availability to technology. So people are not necessarily, we have a holding container that allows for that deeper work in a safe place. But for those of you who are on the process of recovery, trauma work is super important for long-term recovery. If you don't do the deeper work, the chances are you will eventually return to old mechanisms of dealing with life. So I would say It's just about the sequence of events. You got to get sober first and get some skills together to tolerate the discomfort that's brought up when you rip up the past, because those defenses were there for a reason. I love trauma work. I'm trained in EMDR, breath work. I love somatic stuff. I love to get in there with psychodrama with the guys, but I have to make sure they're safe. Because otherwise I'm literally doing them a disservice, because they're being thrown into a place that they're not, the deep water they're not able to swim in yet. So
Thank
that's
you.
my
Yeah,
answer.
no, I appreciate that, because everybody is like, well, if I address the trauma, and then all of the other things are magically going to go away. And I'm like, my experience, and it's kind of vast at this point, is that going and doing the trauma work is exactly like you say, everything's getting stirred up and poked. There's no defenses, there's no plan, there's no structure. And and it actually does escalate things and make it worse when you're trying to address the trauma, which is the underlying thing. So great intent and all that, but from a functionality standpoint, isn't as helpful. So okay, thank you for the questions. Here we go. My SA husband recently took an attachment style quiz. It says he is disorganized. Can you comment on that style and how hard it is to change? He has over 1 year sobriety and good recovery. He attends 4 SA meetings a week with a CSAT weekly and is in step 7. Yay, good recovery work. Okay.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So disorganized. Okay. So let me just back up a little.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about attachment is formed beginning in our infancy. It's the way that our parents mirrored our emotions, met our needs as we got older. And I actually did my thesis in attachment in the lifespan, and all my hypotheses from birth until death were accurate, that this, unless you do work on your attachment style, it's likely to remain pretty much the same throughout your lifespan. So there is securely attached people. Those are people that potentially had childhoods or have done work on themselves that were, my needs were met. When I was afraid, somebody comforted me. I had the ability to have needs, share them, and somebody responded. I was able to speak up. I wasn't frightened and traumatized all the time. There was a consistent caregiver, etc. I know all of us had that childhood. Okay. No. So that's
Yeah.
purely
Yeah.
attached, right? They're able to wade slowly into relationships. They're able to build trust over time. They don't put all their cards on the table. They can trust when trusting behavior is given. They have needs, they can share them. They're not overtly triggered by abandonment all the time. They feel really secure in themselves. So that's securely attached. Then you come over to the insecurely attached department. And there's a few different ways of saying these. There's different labels for them. I like to stick with, yes, there is avoidant. I'd say the vast majority of our clients are more on the avoidant scale. There is anxiously attached. And then there's, the disorganized, which is a little bit of both. And that sometimes people can categorize that as like borderline. That's not always the case. Disorganized is challenging, right? Because it's a little bit of come here, go away. So they crave and want connection. They can be anxiously attached in a place of you're not super available, and then you come close and now they're avoidant. And it almost feels like a sabotage of connection often. And that can be really destabilizing, and it can be really challenging as a partner to like ride that emotional roller coaster, because it's like, I come close, you push me away. I move away, you're following after me. Like, what the hell do you want? It is challenging. And yeah, it is one of the attachment styles that statistically does take a little bit more work to move towards what I say, moving towards the middle, moving towards a more secure attachment style. But I have seen some incredibly disorganized individuals do the work, get sober, get stabilized, do the trauma work around it, get really safe in their bodies, because that is primary for attachment, is that you have to be your own safe home. And from that safe home, you can venture out into connection, knowing that I'm going to be okay, regardless of what this other person does. So I've seen a lot of transformation. Yeah, it definitely, I think, is more complicated. It takes more, I would say, like DBT skills, dialectical behavior skills are really good for disorganized attachment, teaching how can I tolerate distress? How can I tolerate emotions when they don't feel safe and not react and act upon those constantly? So there is hope, absolutely. Um, and I just love attachment work. It's all based in our childhood, but we all have the ability to move towards a more secure attachment. And there's a whole lot more I can say on this. But yes, there is hope. And not all attachment quizzes, by the way, are like the end all be all. So don't like attach yourself to like, great, now I have this statistically challenging person. Watch his behavior, right? And I think for you too, you have to be in a really safe place when you're with someone that's disorganized, because it can be hard to track that in that relationship. And so being really safe in your own home and venturing out when he is a safe person actually trains people how to treat us. It's saying, I'm consistent and I'm safe, but I am not going to engage with you and you're not safe. That's what my secure attachment's about. You know, I protect myself, and I engage with people who are safe.
Yeah, I think that modeling is really important and hard to do, particularly when there's, actions and reactions and all of that. And I'm with you. All of those, like even we have the assessments, the self-assessments on our homepage. Those are not the same thing that we use for people coming to treatment. Like those are just a little, it's like those little quizzes that you read in magazines, where you take something. It's interesting, it's information, something to put, but recovery is about change. And for those of us on a recovery journey, we can address those things. I want to say normal people, but people that don't have to do the deeper work don't necessarily do the deeper work. And many people are not motivated for, self-discovery and change. We have to be. It's, it's life and death for a lot of us. So, okay. The next one is betrayer here, discovery multiple times, most recent 4 months ago, previous discoveries 3 years and 10 years earlier, added complication of DID. One of the alters has been the addict, although others have enabled and supported keeping it hidden. Have you seen successful examples of DID folks managing their compulsion?
That is definitely a layer. Okay. Typically, DID is a response to intense trauma as a child. In other words, different alters potentially are created as means of dealing with something that they cannot tolerate and they cannot handle. It's a dissociative disorder. So, which for those of you who, it's dissociative identity disorder, previously or formerly known as multiple personality disorder. Okay. And this is a tough one. Yes, we have had a few DID clients in treatment, and the goal was integration, right? It was, how can we bring some of these compartmentalized pieces together into one, right? Some of that was processing trauma. Some of that was having to actually work with an alter specifically on those specific issues that particular personality was facing. So for instance, if we were dealing with an alter that was very angry, we would do anger work in that compartment. Not necessarily when they were in a different space. And sometimes these things can flip on a dime, and it's really, really hard. It's rare, first of all, especially in men. It's more common in women. But again, it's caused by trauma. It takes trauma work. It takes integration. I have seen success though. Not in all cases, but in a couple of cases that were pretty severe, actually. I have seen success with long-term support. They needed some separation from their partner because their partner was kind of, a victim of feeling like they had no idea who they were dealing with, or like that trauma response of who's coming next, I don't know how to deal with. And sometimes these partners had developed their own alters to essentially meet the needs or interact with each one of these personalities. It's very complicated. So yeah, I have seen success. It's a matter of working until you get to a place of integration, which is the ultimate goal, which takes trauma work, it takes long-term support. Working with that specific alter when you're in it to work on the issue of compulsive sex or compulsive lying or whatever it is that that person, and ultimately figuring out what is it that this specific part of myself needs to resolve the reason I'm doing this. And why is this alter here in the first place? There's clues there. Why did I develop this part of me that's um that's defensive, that's charming, that seeks validation, that lies without remorse? Like, where did that come from? What survival skill was necessary for me to create this? And that's where the healing takes place. So yeah, lots of complicated moments here, and a long history of discovery, but it's recovery can work in this situation. I would say doesn't matter what mental health conditions are layered upon layered, get into recovery, that your action is going to be the only thing that is going to help move your relationship forward. Um, and this one is a tough one for the partners specifically, but also for you as the addict. Thanks for
So,
asking. Good question.
yeah, and I'm hitting send in the chat. So, and it was for the question above, with attachment styles. He talks about that a lot, but he also talks about, and it's not DID, but like our voices of shame, like we've got the politician, we've got the judge, we've got all of these, and Dr. Eddie Caparucci talks about the inner child and which kid is showing up. So on some level, those are our protections, not labeled DID, of course, but just identifying, oh, there's the judge who's going like, you're never going to be worthy enough, like understanding, what is it. And I love Troy Love is going to be on Wednesday, but I love that he talks about, thank you. I hear you voice. I know you're trying to help me, but I'm the adult and I'm showing up. And his stuff is, I love his attachment wound,
So good.
work anyway, but, I think that there's some pieces of that, could be useful as you're
Really
looking at
helpful.
all of this too. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Absolutely.
Next question. My wife and I are on the call. What do you suggest as initial building blocks to restore trust between the two of us, specifically if there is a repeat offense years after we are healed?
Mm. Okay, so my first go-to is get safe. So like I've been on both sides of this coin, as an addict and as a betrayed partner. And the most important piece for me was I need to feel safe. And for me, that looked like some separation, even if it's in another bedroom, having an alternative space that you can go that allows for you to be grounded, feel safe in your body. Um, so I would say that's the first thing. Second would be action. The only thing, trust is built in small moments. I say this often. The only thing that is going to build trust is her witnessing behaviors and actions that speak to you are doing something different. Because your words have lost their meaning, they've lost their power. They don't mean what they once meant. And her reality is completely turned upside down yet again. And so I would say that these, we always say like it has to be big things. They're not big things, they're little things. Every moment in a relationship is an opportunity to betray trust or to build trust. When you're walking by the kitchen table and you see her sitting there with a cup of coffee and she looks really down and you're late for work, that moment you have an opportunity to build trust or betray trust. And that's, do I walk up to her and say, hey, I want you to know that I can see you're upset and I'm here for you if you need to talk, right? Versus conflict avoidant, I don't really want to deal with this right now. um Empathy, listening, being an emotional container as she has feelings and not receiving that with defensiveness or criticism or fact checking or whatever it is, just being present and allowing, being a vessel to help her heal. Versus, and whatever that looks like, there are going to be days she doesn't want to look at you. There are going to be days where she's like, I really want you to hold me. There are going to be days that she's angry and days that she's really sad, and just showing up in a way that's non-defensive and saying, I'm just going to be here in this, and what is it that you need from me? So recovery is action based, right? She's going to need to see that you are like, am I going to meetings? Am I showing up? Am I copying to the little lies? I lied about that I picked up the dry cleaning and I never did. Within 24 hours, tell the truth about that. That is a marble in the jar. Um, Showing up in moments where would be easier to walk away. All of those things build trust. But in the very beginning, and it's so raw and it's so hard, like spending some time getting support individually and getting really safe in your body and having alternative spaces to go, because you're going to feel dysregulated often. And you have to be able to regulate yourself, because the partner that you always turn to for maybe comfort or support is no longer that person right now. And so you have to find your support, find your community. We have a ton of resources for all of community building that you can imagine. And that would be my advice at the beginning of this. It takes time. Don't rush the process. For the partner, I would say, don't betray yourself by doing things that you're not ready to do, or being absorbed in, and not even about controlling, but absorbed in and worried about him. Do your best to step outside and say, what do I need right now? Because he's either going to do the actions that build trust or he's not. You can't force it, promote it, cheerlead it. Like, you have to, honestly, the best thing you can do is to back away and take care of yourself. So those are my initial thoughts. Tammy, anything else that you have on that?
Yeah, I added the online work groups. There's an Out of the Doghouse work group starting soon, and that is for men who've been caught cheating. And then there's also the Betrayed Partner work group that will start. Those are 6-week courses, 90 minutes per week, live facilitated with homework, with connection with peers. But I was like, you know, yes, you healed, but I also go, but you didn't continue to do the work. I say, well, this is the stuff. And I'm going to use addiction. I'm going to use that word specifically. I'm not saying you're an addict. I'm just going, with the stuff that has worked for us. Oh, we're doing really good. So I'm going to stop doing what really worked. But trade partners are going, gosh, you did so good, so they're blindsided. So it's kind of it's an extra double whammy of the hurt and betrayal. So yeah, as Erin said, yes, safety, healthy boundaries for partner, making sure you're showing up and doing the work, 90 meetings in 90 days, our drop-in groups, our webinars. I'm glad you're both here, but it's also, making sure that you're doing the separate work to heal. And we are working on finalizing the retreat for betrayed partners towards the end of September. We already have applications for that. We don't even have all the details, and we've got applications. So it was so amazing. So for you, wife that has been betrayed, that's a little bit out, but it could be a lifeline to hang on to too. So
Yeah.
okay, the next one, my spouse is a sex addict and people pleaser, which I hear is common. I'm trying to explain to him to worry less about my reactions and more about protecting his sobriety. Any advice? I can't change him, so should I even be asking this? I love this question.
Yeah. Oh, this one, I literally was just on an advice panel before this. And some of these guys have, similar trauma, very different and not comparable and brought on by themselves. But like D-Day is like, oh shit, my compartments that have been over here separate are now colliding. And there's this huge bomb that goes off. And so they're really quick to give you the answer you want versus the authentic answer. And I have to spend a lot of time training our guys in treatment to pause. And maybe that's something you can introduce. If you're noticing that the answers you're getting are basically, he's concerned about, he's literally prepping an answer that you want to hear. And you're like, I just want honesty. Sometimes you have to put a pause in that, and even like a minute or more take a deep breath. I want you to reflect on this question and get back to me. You can use the partner journal as an option. If you really want to talk about something and you feel like he's so quick to give you like the placating answer, writing back and forth actually seems to help slow down the process a lot, because many of these guys learned that in childhood. They had to keep mom happy or prevent the discord in the household, or they would get in massive crazy trouble if the truth came out, right? So they learned so early on to just avoid conflict, say the thing that they want to hear, and they've lost sight and even the neural pathways at times to slow down and actually think about what's true, like what's actually true. And some of them don't have a clue. They need a moment to check in and like actually build that skill of, okay, hold on a second. My first knee jerk reaction is to say, oh no, everything's fine. I went to a meeting today. I'm feeling good. Versus the truth is, you know what? I'm stuck in a shame spiral today. I went to the meeting. I didn't listen barely at all. I'm really struggling. That's my truth. But that is going to bring on, right, potentially worry or concern in the part. So yeah, you have to slow this process down. If you need to move it to writing for a minute, if you need to have maybe a period of time where you just pause if you have an important question, because if it's met with this, this answer that just doesn't feel authentic, it pisses you off more, and that doesn't build trust. And the goal here is to build trust in recovery. So that's my thought on this one.
Great thoughts. And journaling, there's so much research about journaling, that it helps you process things. And I would think, I haven't tried the partner journal, but I would think if I had to write it down, I'd be really intentional about what I was writing rather than just trying to find an answer. So I bet it really helps, like you said, slow the process down to get more to what really is going on.
And here's what's great. Half the time, the placating answer is meant to avoid their response or to get a contrived response that is preferable to the one that they're going to get if they're honest. So when you're writing, it goes nightstand to nightstand, right? When I'm reading this, I have a chance to pause, reflect, like really think through. And then I have an opportunity to write an answer that they're going to read when I'm not staring at their face. And I can hold on to myself a little bit more, knowing that they're having that reaction, they're calming down, then we're going to talk about it, or they're going to respond. It just pulls apart all the pieces, because that thing, it happens so fast. It's so compulsive. It's so automatic. You
Reactionary.
and it's
just
ingrained. Yeah.
Okay. I am the betrayer, and I am trying to figure out how to get my partner to understand that I'm not perfect and make mistakes minute late with text, left my phone behind, or do I just need to suck it up and deal with her frustration?
Well, I don't know how far into the process you are. But I would say there's a level of sucking it up in the beginning. Like oftentimes we hear the like, I don't get it. It's been 6 months and she's still pissed off. And it's like, well, she just discovered you've been doing this for like 14 years, and wanting that discomfort and that angstiness to go away. And honestly, sometimes it's not even about the fact. So she's basically bringing up, you're doing things that make me feel unsafe. And that feels careless given all that I've been through, right? You are a human. You will make mistakes. Absolutely. It's more about how you show up in her frustration that I think is going to help heal this a little bit. In other words, own it, be accountable for it. Don't be defensive. You're absolutely right. You know, and at the end of the day, the more you're showing up in that way, the frustration, you're going to have more marbles in the jar than you do having them taken out by being 1 minute late responding to a text, right? Now, there are cases that we've seen that get real extreme. And there are places to make boundaries, if you need to, like intense surveillance and things like that, that are not really helpful for either person. you want this to be as healthy as it can be. But I would say in this case, you do have to, suck it up for a minute and just allow that she's extra sensitive because her world's been turned upside down. Like her reality is not what she once believed that it is. And she needs you to just be accountable for those things and recognize it's not even about the minute late. It's that you feel unsafe. And I really want to own that my being a minute late brought up this feeling of what's he doing, questioning me. And I want to hold space for the fact that that really sucks. And I caused that frustration. And I want to get back on track. So I hear you. I'm with you in this, and I'm going to do better next time. Like that type of response can build trust even when you make a mistake.
Yes, and compare and contrast that to, you got to understand, I left my phone behind, which is what I hear. I've worked with some guys before that were, how do I get my partner to understand? I'm always like, you don't, like you don't, and that's not the point. I often use I'm sorry, my past behavior has given you reasons to not trust me. I'm working to change that, but taking ownership of it and not being defensive. I left my phone behind. Well, that was on you that you left your phone behind. Like, so all of those things, it's not about, but what I hear, and I'm going to point back to Troy Love's, because he talks about the voices of shame. And I hear that you're going, oh, I have shame because like I've disappointed her. And now, but it feels like blame shifting. If she expects me to be perfect and, I'll never be perfect enough. So then it's futile. And we're telling you there's lots of hope, but owning, yep, I was a minute late with that. I left my phone behind. I'm sorry, my past behaviors have caused you pain. I own this. I'm going to work on being more vigilant about having my phone with me, whatever it is, but don't promise the sky, and, and own it, and own that your behaviors have caused this problem. I'm sure she was very like, oh my God, here he goes again, like it, that's
Yeah.
how it feels.
In the beginning, they're just going to be very aware of discrepancies because especially for betrayed partners, they have lost this intuition that they trusted their gut at one point. And when they find out that they didn't get it right, or they didn't know, or they feel humiliated, they're so sensitive and attuned to discrepancies in your story. And that takes a little bit of time. So I would just say, get on the wagon, accountability, and just try to be empathic to where it's coming from versus the content of the argument.
Yes. Yeah. It isn't about the minute late. It's the pattern. My spouse took Instagram off his phone and then got Twitter. The site has lots of inappropriate stuff. Why is this addiction so frustrating? This is a hard addiction to beat, right? I think beat, leaning, manage. I think versus manage or something. So I'm not 100% sure on the last. Maybe you can, but why is it so hard to beat?
Well, we don't beat, like we don't like wake up one day and we're like, yeah, I beat
Yes.
it. I'm done. Um, it's a process that, it gets easier in recovery for sure. It's not always as hard as it is when you first get sober. Um, but recognizing that these are things that will always be vulnerabilities to me, and I have to continue peeling back the layers and becoming more integrated and more, into my recovery over time. I wouldn't say it's any harder to beat than any other addiction, to be honest. There's unfortunately a lot less research around sex addiction because it's harder to actually research, because sex addiction is defined by the issue that's in the inner circle, right? Which is different for everybody. So abstinence versus healthy sexuality, like it's not just I'm putting alcohol down, right? So it's a little bit more nuanced, but no, we see tons of recovery, like a lot, all around us. I just came from a huge group of people that are all sober and sharing their stories, and it's just beautiful to see.
Oh, so
It
good.
was amazing. Um, but yeah, this to me looks like some kind of half-assed recovery, to be honest. Like if I'm taking Instagram off my phone but I'm putting on Twitter. It's like being like, well, I got rid of Facebook, but I still have Instagram. I mean, it's kind of like social media is social media. If you're going to get rid of it, get rid of all of it and actually, be in a place of integrity, especially because I can see if I am the addict and you are my partner, that you're frustrated by this, that it doesn't make you feel safe. Therefore, I would like to do the thing that builds trust with my partner. I would like to do the thing that is best for my recovery, that protects and safeguards my recovery. So this is some crap. And yeah, it's frustrating because you have someone that's half in and half out right now. And I don't know what his recovery, if any, looks like, but I mean, that's like, I got rid of X videos, but I still have Pornhub.
Yeah,
It's
that's I always go. It's like I'm not drinking whiskey, I'm only drinking beer. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, you're still keeping that dopamine going. I'm harder on this. I don't see that as recovery. That is, I've just switched, and I mean, still using, non-porn is still a problem. I put in I'm flipping direction though. I'm going to talk to you. Healthy boundaries for you, Debbie McCrae. She's part of our retreat too, but she does an amazing job of using talking boundaries when you're looking at inappropriate information or spending all kinds of time, even if it's, let's say it's G-rated, guess what? If you're sucked into your phone, and you're not paying attention to me, then I have feelings about that. So healthy boundaries for you about that is when you're choosing to do that, and I have no control over you, I'm going to take care of me, and I'm going to be doing whatever it is I need to do for self-care. I'm going to be less available for you, but taking the focus off of what he does or doesn't do, nothing you did or didn't do caused this, and you can't fix it. But you can take care of you. And sometimes, when people start going, oh, she's not, here as much, and she's having fun over there. And like, sometimes that can be a nudge to go, I need to step this up. But, there's a whole bunch of tools. Debbie McCrae's are particularly useful. She's very, here's 10 things for accountability. Here, I love hers. I take massive notes on it. So check out those previously recorded webinars. Work on taking care of you, regardless of what he does or doesn't do. So,
because this
okay,
stuff
next
is alive.
yeah.
You don't take care of yourself. Ugh.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a reason my SA spouse, Christian counselor, would advise my husband to not be fully transparent with me? Husband says I'm not emotionally, oh, sorry, I got stuck. Husband says I'm not emotionally capable because I take it as something deficient in me versus a problem he faces. So I make things worse with my response. I don't agree with this. I definitely know it's a problem with him and not me, but like most, it has been hard on my self-esteem. Yes, I think the issue could be that I get upset when I find he withholds information more than when he just plain tells me slip up straight away. But even in the past, I've reacted in an understanding way. I've suggested going to a CSAT or a specialist to get a second opinion would be nice, but I think he seems content with his counselor, who seems to be babying him. Am I wrong? Is transparency something I shouldn't be asking for right now? I know. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going like I'm having a massive reaction to this. And first of all, eh, addicts lie. So if you heard this directly from the counselor, then you heard it directly from the counselor. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt a little tiny bit that the counselor didn't really say this, but this is exactly why we say all the time, you got cancer, you go to the cancer specialist, you don't go to your nice GP. And I honestly, when I hear that, oh, my spouse really, really, really likes his therapist, I'm always going, red flag, you should respect your therapist. But if they're like, oh my gosh, my therapist is so amazing, they're so nice to me every week, guess what? This requires change. So thank you for doing that. I was doing the same thing, but I verbally, so I will shut up, go for it.
Just, I was just vomiting in my mouth a little bit.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start at the top here. Okay, so you go to a CSAT, and here's why. If there are things that are unknown or issues that have not been disclosed, you should be going through a process of full therapeutic disclosure, because let's say his concern is your reaction. in full therapeutic disclosure, there's a whole part for you to really prepare for having this information. There's steps to take to be able to have the whole truth, nothing but the truth, the whole big, and there's a process that is safe and therapeutic and held for both of you. And it sounds like you might need that. The comments about like you're not emotionally capable is some serious gaslighting. You have a right to take it however you want. Now, if he's concerned about your safety, right, that, oh, when I disclose something, you go and harm yourself or you harm me, and but even that is like, then talk about it in a therapist's office, do it in a safer way. But him withholding information from you is what is making you react the way you're reacting. And this is not, transparency is 100% your right. You deserve consent to be in a relationship, and you need to understand what's going on so you can make choices for yourself. So the fact that he's withholding and he's saying, oh, well, my counselor says that you're just like not emotionally capable because you make it about yourself. That's a natural part of betrayal trauma, unfortunately, is as much as we know on a logical side that this is not about me. They would be doing this to a swimsuit model. They would be doing this to, I mean, it doesn't matter because it's the intimacy and the closeness in the relationship, and it's their shit. It's their, it doesn't matter. So, but unfortunately, as part of betrayal trauma, of course, we go to, well, I'm not the thing that they look at in porn, or I don't have the body of the thing that they're interested in. And maybe if I was more like that, then they wouldn't be like this. And that is all very, I want to normalize that is often the experience of many, many, many betrayed partners that have gone through this. There's almost no way to avoid it. But the truth is, it doesn't have anything to do with you. You didn't cause it. You can't control it. And you deserve transparency in this situation. And I think a good boundary is to say, we're going to see a CSAT that specializes in this specifically, because I don't feel safe over the advice that your counselor is supposedly giving you. And my boundary is that in this relationship, there is transparency. I will do my best to stay safe and have support around my reaction, but I am absolutely entitled to transparency in our relationship. So that's just some, I don't know. That's not cool. And again, Tammy's right. We hear it all the time. Guys and girls will use their therapist's words like and twist them to like manipulate the partner. You want to hear some of this directly from the counselor, but you really need a CSAT. It's just a different experience.
Yes. I was trying to be gracious and go, if you heard it directly from that person, and which is entirely true, but addicts lie, and that's a whole another chapter. One more thing I mentioned before I hit record, Dr. Rob does a 2-hour expert consultation with couples. This is a really good situation for something like that. Erin also does a 90-minute with couples. This is a really good situation for either one of them. But just take a minute and share a little bit about like what the difference is in an expert consultation, which is not therapy or treatment, but
it's so people get stuck, right? They maybe don't have the correct support, or they don't know what direction to go, or they're like in a stalemate, or they're like, here's where we are and we don't know where to go next. Expert consultations are cool because I get the opportunity to kind of hear everybody out. Where are you? What's going on? What is it that your needs are? Where are you stuck? And providing some really specific guidelines and guidance for where can you go next? What makes the most sense? And having both people in the room to hear that exact same thing is really powerful, because you're getting split here. And couples counseling is not always appropriate yet, because you haven't done certain types of individual work, where couples counseling, unless it's like to really help facilitate co-parenting or just some communication because you're struggling around that. But the deeper stuff, right? You may not be at that place yet, but you can't get split when one person's hearing both sides and give some very specific guidance. Like, hey, this is all I do is work with you folks. And here's some things that have really helped and have really worked. But in this case, I would be not It's not about refereeing per se. It's about saying, here's what I'm seeing, and this is where you might be stuck. And here's some advice for moving forward.
And
'Cause
these are all done via Zoom because they both work with people. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are, that helps. So, but healthy boundaries for you, uh, we could do many, many hours because we've got lots of resources on what do healthy boundaries look like for you? We have a betrayed partner work group starting again in April, and they talk about what are healthy boundaries for your safety and how you show up and take care of yourself, so that, okay, he wants to stay with this and he doesn't really want to work on the relationship. Well, how do you take care of yourself, in the context of that? And not have all the focus be on him. It's crazy. It's crazy making. You're not crazy, but it's crazy making to have all of this, chaos going on over here and being lied to. I mean, gaslighting to the core is even blame shifting. It's like, oh, well, you're the problem. I'm like, ugh,
and you're actually being punished
yes,
for having a very normal and natural reaction. Well, because you responded that way,
yeah,
now I'm not going to tell you anything.
yeah,
That's so manipulative and wrong. I don't like it at all.
me either. Okay, next question. Betrayed partner 3 days from D-Day, or 3 years from D-Day. 1 year after realizing sex addiction with the CSAT, 12-step CSAT every week, dropping classes with Scott, great. Did all 3 sex addiction 101 and live group he attends every week. He asked me to take a walk with him and he did a double look at a woman with a dog across the street. I was furious. We went home and then he admitted to me at retail work 2 weeks prior, he double looked at some volleyball looking girl. He did not tell his group sponsor or me thoughts what to do.
Okay. So this is a challenging one because we are still human. Okay. So I'm not condoning a double look. I think that you have to own it when it happens, and you need to, especially with your, like, I would say that that's something he should have brought to like his group and dropped that and shared it. But because of course it's incredibly triggering. The littlest things can feel like lighting a putting gasoline on a fire because you've been hurt like this. But what I would say is something like a double look oftentimes is happening before someone even recognizes or realizes what is going on, which is why sometimes in treatment we do like a 3-second rule. If I'm looking in the direction and something is not appropriate, like I bounce my eyes back to something else, within 3 seconds, I am back to a different visual or different image. But also, we're human. Double looks are going to happen. I mean, I do it. And it could have been towards the dog. What I'm saying is that there's got to be some kind of level of grace where he can be accountable, but you also have to recognize that some things happen in a split second. And as long as, the piece about, hey, I wish you would have shared that with your recovery brothers. But I don't know. I think in this situation, there was not so I always say, there's slips, there's relapses, there's momentary moments where I had a choice to prolongingly stare at something and I did a double take, but I looked away, right? That actually might be an improvement from something else. So I would just say, give some grace here. What I would ask is that the recovery behavior is that when something happens, I take it to my guys. I share it, I drop it, I open up about it. And yeah, he's got to be really like vigilant, especially with you. It's so like it's heartbreaking when these things happen because it rips that wound open a little bit more. But there's also looking at the bigger picture here, which is there progress? Is he in? I mean, he's doing a lot and he's still human. We still are going to lie. We still are going to double take at things. It's what we do with those things that is the recovery behavior. And that's what I would be more focused on versus, it's like, because that's potentially asking for a standard of perfection that's not yet available to him. I don't know. I don't know, Tammy, that's kind of what came up for
Well,
me.
a couple things. So Scott talks about bookending, and one of the
Mhm.
tools you can use, like if those are, if it is challenging for him to be out in public, then contacting one of his peer supports, a sponsor, and going, I'm going out in, in the real world, and
Look at me.
committing. Yeah, yes, I'm committing to you that I'm going to work. And then in my head, I'm being intentional. In my head, I'm going like, I've committed. I'm going to contact my sponsor afterwards and let him know how this went. And the biggest thing is, we're seeking integrity. We talk all the time about integrity. We have got to, be brutally honest with ourselves. And so it's, to me, like, not fun that he double looked, but the biggest issue was that he minimized it. He didn't tell his recovery crew 2 weeks ago, and then he's done it again. So now there's starting to be a pattern. And so to me, it would be like, what do I need to do? Double down on my recovery work. Maybe I need to go to more 12-step meetings, whatever it is I need to do to shore up my recovery. It, it, it's a process. We learn and we grow. And I was sharing with another couple this weekend. You know, you can't undo what just happened. So you can accept, okay, this is another opportunity for learning. You don't like it, understandably. And so at this point, it's like, when we go out, I need you to, like, for my safety, I need you to pay attention to me, hold my hand, whatever it is, so that you're focusing on me and our mission, if it's going to the grocery store or whatever it is, and it will make me feel safer if you do that. And, whatever it is your healthy boundary is for you, you can't make that unhappen, but he can sure use it as a learning tool to move forward. And if you have to step back a half a step, for safety and go, yeah, I'm not feeling as close to you right now because, there's a couple of incidences. I get it. It's really now, what is he going to choose to do, to show you that a message received, and I'm choosing to do something that's going to be active, to help me, stop doing the same thing. So, okay. Oh, here's a question. What can I expect in couples therapy? Couples therapist is a CSAT. We are post-disclosure. My husband has had a CSAT, but not really in group or 12-step. I have had an awesome, the CPTT is the partner training, and we've done EMDR. We've had a couple of sessions with a couples therapist, but it seems it's been reflective communications, and at times we are in crisis. I think we need more from couples therapy, but I don't know if my expectations are realistic. Another great question. So thank you.
Yeah. So I have an opinion on this one that I don't know is popular, unpopular, but in therapy, you are a consumer and the therapist is the product, right? And I believe there should be a level of connection in the first session. Um, Definitely the first three. And if you're voicing what our needs are and you're sharing these are the goals that we have as a couple, and that therapist is not really able to meet you where you are, they may not have the skill set that you need to meet you where you are. When I hear like people sticking with the same therapist for years because they think, oh, well, this is therapy, right? And this is what it should be like. You should have a connection. You should feel like you're moving towards your goals. Your goals should be identified and being worked on actively by the therapist, and everybody's in agreement on what those are. If you're coming in crisis and you need some directive steps, you need to say, we need some steps, some action steps when we leave here. Like reflective listening is great. And we're going to do that here. We're going to practice that, but we need some steps to help us get out of this crisis by the time we leave. Right. So I would say being very directive, and don't hang out forever if it's not working for you guys. Um, I always say be aware, especially in couples therapy, that sometimes people abandon couples therapy when they feel like they're being like held accountable. So just make sure it's not that. It doesn't sound like that. This sounds like you're feeling like I don't understand. Our needs aren't being met. So I would say ask for your needs to be met. If they're not, move on. There's some amazing therapists out there. And just because they're a CSAT doesn't always mean they're the perfect fit for you, right? Even in the CSAT community, one person may work really well for you and another maybe not so much. There's good and bad in every arena.
Yeah. And my bigger issue is, he's not doing anything. If he's just going to his CSAT therapist, even if it's the
Yeah.
most brilliant CSAT therapist, and that's all he's doing, 50 minutes a week, once a week to combat, we're talking about big time massive issues that are usually from before age 10. And he's going to, in one 50-minute session once a week, magically change and get to be a place where you are now going, gosh, I really want to be in this relationship with that person. He's stuck, you've clearly gotten help and support and are, doing great. So awesome. But he's stuck. So I would encourage you with your CPTT therapist to work on your healthy boundaries about, like, what do you need to see in order to build trust that you even want to go to couples, therapy, with this person. So
Yeah, he needs to have a community. If it's not 12 step is like a real easy, available, great structure, then he's got to find community through some form of recovery. There's a number of different ways to do that, but he can't do this in a vacuum, I promise.
So, the next question, my husband did not start porn and masturbation until after our 2 children were born and life became a little more stressful. We have been married 31 years and D-Day was just last July. I had absolutely no idea what was going on. Everyone I speak to thinks he is lying about no porn and masturbation as a teen. He says it was because he thought masturbation was dirty and did not want to defile his family home. He has discovered he experienced childhood trauma in his own therapy and now realizes his family is quite dysfunctional. If I trust that he is being honest, how do I not take it personally that he wanted to look at other women only after we were married for 6 years? It's really hard not to think I was not good enough for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first myth I'll dispel. It has nothing to do with you. I know it feels like that. Um, but honestly, for a lot of men, this did start young. For some, the intimacy and attachment stuff that is triggered when you are partnered in a long-term relationship. And I always see this stuff escalate after or during childbirth. So somebody is pregnant, it's like a high stakes time for someone to act out. And that's sad and fucked up. And I hate it, but we see it often. And every child that comes actually raises the stakes of that attachment. The expectation goes up. The need for responsibility. For some men, especially avoidant attached, ones that were enmeshed with their mothers primarily, they feel trapped by the intimacy of a partnered relationship, and the addition of children adds to that. And so if they're not kind of working on that, they go to this place of, I have to go out the back door. Like I have to get away from the pressure of all of this. And sometimes they go to things that, like you said, that was dirty, right? But it's like, well, this is my little rebellion, whether it's eroticized rage, whatever it is, it's an escape from what feels like a lot of discomfort under the pressure of a committed relationship. So sometimes we see those attachment things triggered when they're in the committed relationship, which of course feels really crappy because you're like, great. So you didn't, these behaviors weren't a thing for you until you were married to me. Like that really sucks when really it's not about you. It's their own stuff is being triggered by the commitment itself. Like their attachment stuff is being triggered by the commitment to you and the children, which is not your fault. You didn't cause it. And it is really hard, but we do see it a lot. We see it a lot.
And I've seen other things like overeating, or
Yeah.
I had one guy I was talking to and like
Alcoholism.
a library. I mean, he had book, like he would devour books but he was so distant and disconnected from his spouse. So it doesn't have to be, a socially unacceptable behavior, but there's lots of ways to escape and dissociate, even if it isn't porn or masturbation or other sexual acting out. So again, at our residential program, we're looking holistically at all of these things and doing the deeper dive on what's going on so that we aren't leaving things, but yes, with mother enmeshment, I mean, like, yeah, dysfunctional family. Well, let's just go there, not even mother enmeshment, but dysfunctional family. that's a setup. Like, there's a role to play, and, my needs can't be met emotionally, and I have to look perfect or whatever the message was. It's like, no, these emotions are not okay. So, but it isn't you. So we're out of time, but there's one follow up to the DID. So do you have a moment to answer that? It's the DID here. Does
I
that change
have
at all
something
based?
starting at 6, so
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
have to run
Bring it
today.
back. Bring it
But
back. Okay.
come back next week. Dr. Rob will be here next week. I'll be here in 2 weeks. It was a pleasure. Thank you everyone
Thanks,
for being here
Erin.
tonight.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
the great questions. Bring your questions back.